On NewsNation. Let's turn to Jonathan Geyer right now. Jonathan's program director for the Institute for Global Affairs at Eurasia Group and a contributing editor at American Prospect as well. Is also here in our studio in New York. Busy night. Good to see you. And the reason we wanted to have you on is kind of to follow up on the governor's conversation, because I think you have a unique perspective on kind of President Trump in the world. Okay, so let me start it this way. You had a piece, American Prospect, I'll put it up on the headline, about the Trump factor in the Middle East. And, you know, what does that mean? So with Trump back in the White House, you wrote, foreign policy observers are again scrambling to make sense of his unconventional brand of statecraft. How much you take literally versus seriously, whether everything's transactional and personality driven or whether a broader intent can be surmised. And this is a good week to talk about this, right?
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
I mean, we can see the conflicts within this administration playing out. I mean, one day bombing Yemen, the next day it's over. We have a truce there. Syria sanctions then lifted.
Right.
Iran talks after being saber rattling with Iran. What we're seeing is a president who has a lot of Middle East policies. Let's say he has 5 or 6 Middle East policies, and they're all playing out day to day a little differently. And so it's incredibly surprising that Israel wasn't on this trip, that Gulf kingdoms and Gulf money was the focus. But who knows if that's going to shift again, and you know, the belligerence, the militarism that was on display comes back into fruition.
So what is your larger point that this sometimes, you know, can be maddening, sometimes can be effective in his own ways because he's so different than other presidents if it's used right? Sometimes I guess can get it his own way. We talked about the plane story. You know, how does it all shake out? I mean, it could be effective sometimes.
I think President Trump deserves a lot of credit. I mean, the diplomacy with Israel-Palestine, he had a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Then it blows up, and it's been this incredibly deadly month. 3,000 Palestinians have died since March. Today is the day Palestinians remember 1948 when they were dispossessed from their homes. And, you know, Palestinians just weren't there on this Middle East trip. This was a real split screen. We had big Gulf money, AI, as the governor said, a lot of investment, but we didn't really hear from Palestinians, and we didn't hear from Arab citizens. So it's a really strange version of a new Middle East where you have hundreds of American CEOs in a room and the president declaring a new Middle East.
It was obviously by design. I mean, he could have went to Israel, for example, and didn't, and been having issues with Netanyahu. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, every president has wanted to declare a new Middle East, and it does seem like Trump is really breaking with the George W. Bush, Obama, Biden past. This is totally new, totally different, and sometimes creative diplomacy works. And, you know, I'm hopeful with Iran, but as the governor said, who knows if this is all that different? It
was interesting, like, I don't know if you saw, but Axios had this piece about what the Biden people were saying about Trump. I'll put it up, but they said the Biden officials that they spoke to are, quote, awed by Trump's rule-breaking Middle East moves. This is not about President Biden, it's about President Trump and the advantage that he has with Netanyahu, quoting Ned Price. If the Biden administration had done something like this, Bibi would have gone out guns blazing, that there's kind of a different standard for Trump, and must be interesting to kind of operate in that way.
Totally unconventional, unpredictable, and it might work. I mean, I think what the Biden alumni I'm speaking to are saying is their conventional brand of foreign policy hit a lot of roadblocks, and you know, the tragedy that's happened to Palestinians and some of the ongoing never-ending wars in the Middle East still continued on Biden's watch.
One of the things we're going to have to do, I think, you know, all collectively, is at the end, we're going to have to, I spoke to the governor about report cards, give a report card, right? So, for example, Iran, like you get an Iran deal, okay. Is it the same deal that Obama had? And if so, all right, that's not a great grade after all these years. But if it's not, and it's a new, you know, a better deal, so to speak, then the president has a victory. So it's sometimes, you know, same thing with China. We don't know yet, is my point.
Right, and he gave a really interesting speech, as you said, you know, ending with the idea of a totally values-first policy. That makes me a little worried. This was in a hotel where a bunch of Saudi businessmen were round up. Right. He was, MBS, the Crown Prince, was taking charge. Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist, American resident.
That was 2018. That's not that long ago.
No, so it's, you know, I don't think we can totally move on for those things, and they have to be a part of a new Middle East policy. It's not like we can start totally fresh here.
All right, Jonathan, interesting conversation, good piece as well, and perspective. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Appreciate it.
Jonathan Geyer. Now,